You want garlic like this, but you're getting garlic like that. Want to know how to get garlic like this? Watch this video. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and a question I get a lot on my channel, because I grow a lot of garlic, probably growing 250 heads of garlic this year, which is a lot for a home gardener, I suppose. But it's not a lot insofar as that's how much garlic I need to eat in a given year. We eat a lot of garlic in my house. So the most common question I get is, why are my garlic small? And I planted garlic, because I'm always talking about, oh, grow garlic, it's the easiest thing to do in the world. You know, you just stick it in the ground, do nothing, stick it in the ground in the fall, and sometime in July and August you get garlic. Pretty low maintenance. So people do that and they get some thing with a 1-inch diameter. This one's basically maybe 1 inch by 2 inches, and not an impressive garlic, right? And so a question I get a lot from viewers is, why did my garlic get big, right? And I say there's a number of factors that would affect that. I'm going to walk you around the garden here and show you, because I've actually got one garden where all the garlic came in small, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I got a pretty good idea why. So it can be any one of these things. Your soil. If you've got good soil, you're going to get good garlic. You've got poor soil, there's just not going to be the things the garlic need. A real estate. You got to have a nice sunny spot, right? The garlic needs sun. I guess also to that extent seasonality. So you know, if you've got a lousy, garlic do a lot of their growing in April, May, maybe even earlier than April, depending on where you live, but they do a lot of their growing in the spring. So you've got a warm, sunny spring, you're going to have really big garlic. And if you've got a sort of cold, dreary, overcast spring, you're not going to have good garlic, because that's when they're doing a lot of their growing. So the other thing is the variety. Some garlics just grow bigger than others. All the garlic I grow here are the same variety, music garlic. I've been saving, I think that's what they are, because I've been saving my own seeds, and this year in particular I didn't buy any seed garlic at all. I just used saved seeds. I save about 20% of my garlic for planting the next time around. So it could be the variety as well. It could also be the clove size is a factor. The bigger the clove, so take a garlic like this, you save it for seed. When it's time to plant, you break it up and you put the different individual cloves in the ground. Each one of them turns into a garlic. The larger the clove, as a general rule, the larger the garlic you're going to get. So if you get small cloves, you're going to get small garlic. Generally speaking, when I'm planting my garlic, when I break these things up, if there's a small clove, I'll put it aside. And if I don't need it for planting, I'll just use it for eating, right? So I try to put all the big cloves in, all the biggest, best garlic. I actually don't eat them. I use them as seed. It's kind of heartbreaking. So there's that. A lot of people will buy grocery store garlic, stick them in the ground, and they get lousy results, and they think it's, you know, something they did. It could just be the grocery store garlic, regardless of the type. Because when you buy seed garlic, you know, certified seed garlic from a seed provider, that garlic was harvested at the right time, and it was stored under the right conditions so that it would be good seed garlic. So, you know, if you just get something from a grocery store, you don't know what temperature it was stored at, you don't know what stage of its development it was harvested at, so it might not grow with the same vigor as a seed garlic that was, you know, treated right, harvested at the right time, you know, all that sort of stuff, with all that stuff in mind. It's not to say that you can't get good results with grocery store garlic. You just run the risk of not getting good results, right? You're sort of leaving it up to chance. May be the case that everything just worked out and that was fine. And I know there's going to be people comment that I grow grocery store, I bought the organic stuff and I used it and it worked out fine. Yeah, it can work. It's just, there's a greater chance of something going wrong when you use that approach. So I know there's people going to comment here about Chinese garlic, using Chinese garlic. I've done little experiments with them, and from what I found, they're viable. But again, you don't know, where they, how were they stored, all that sort of stuff. Especially the first generation, you really don't know how they're going to turn out. And also, they may not be hardy to your zone. And then there's questions about chemical treatments and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to get into that here. Anyway, grocery store garlic, as a general rule, you don't know the conditions under which it was harvested and stored and prepared for being, what you're going to use. It was harvested for food, not for seed. So it's very likely that the garlic in there is still viable. But does it grow with vigor, right? Is it really going to do well as a garlic plant, given that it was harvested to be a food garlic? Okay, now, I'm going to take you around the garden a little bit and show you some really good garlic, like the bed I got this one from, and some not so good garlic, the bed I got this one from. All right, let's go have a look around. All right, so here's a bed, what I would call prime real estate in my garden. It's pretty far from the tree cover. I mean, my garden's sort of surrounded by a forest to a certain extent, but it's, at least 30 feet from the nearest tall tree. So it pretty much gets sun all day. It's really good soil. It's a no-till garden, and it's just soil that's been mulched year after year after year. So you reach in, you pull out some of this soil. You know, it's the beautiful black stuff that you want, right? When I'm looking at the bed here, and the way to tell that you're going to have a good garlic before pulling them, without even pulling them, right? Here's a nice big one. Here's a skinny one. Notice the difference in the diameter of the stem, right? Thick stem, big garlic, right? It's not a perfect 1-to-1 ratio, but it's a pretty good indication, right? Thick stem, big garlic sort of thing. So I look around here, and there's actually a couple with even bigger stems than this. So I know that, I got good location here. I know I got good soil. And I got all the water it needed because it's mulched. I haven't watered, I have not turned the hose on this garden all summer long. You know, I stuck these in the ground around the middle of October, I guess. And that's it, right? But yeah, so it's possible that because, you know, it's possible that I used the very biggest cloves in this bed. But even if you put your best cloves in poor soil, they're not going to get the results of, you know, average cloves in really good soil. Soil really matters, sun really matters, but clove side also matters. So anyway, there's a really good bed. Now I'm going to show you not so good bed. All right, so here's sort of my least good garlic bed. Almost without exception, there are no garlic here with this thick stem. They're all like this one. I would hazard to guess that they're all like this, right? Not only that, but these garlic sent their scapes up first, and they seem to be, they're ready to harvest basically. They're starting to turn, you know, once you've got, you know, 3 or 4 or 5, you know, once the tips of the leaves start to go this color, you can harvest them, you can use them. The garlic scapes on these garlic appeared before they did elsewhere. So that tells me that this bed was just under some kind of stress, that either the soil wasn't holding water well, you know, all kinds of possible explanations. I mean, sure, there's some weeds in here, but there wasn't. These are relatively recent additions, and little side note, I let these seeds, these weeds grow and go to flower because I want to save the seeds because I like eating the greens. They're really good. I'm going to actually plant a garden with these next year. It's a kind of wild radish, but I like the leaves, and they grow a lot of foliage. Kind of like a turnip green, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, it's not the weeds, the few weeds I've got here. That's because there's no real weeds over there, and you know, I weeded it a couple times this season. It's the main problem is that I would say, because this is a really sunny spot, it gets sun all day. I mean, right next to this camera, there's squash growing, and they're, you know, the plants are nice and big. There's tomatoes growing pretty much where you're, if you were a person, there's tomatoes growing where you're standing, and they were direct seeded, and they're 2.5 feet high, right? There's collard greens right here. The biggest ones are about 2 feet high. You know, it's the middle of July, so this is a good spot. But this bed is a relatively new bed. I think I grew potatoes here last year, and I've really not done much to, you know, other than keeping it mulched. Basically, last year was the first year for this garden using the existing soil that was here. And I noticed when I grew, the potatoes that I grew here weren't very big. And these garlic aren't very big, right? So I would think these garlic in particular, the problem is that it's just the soil needs to improve. And, sure, there's things, I could do in the fall to give us a real jump start. I could put some manure on that. I could put some chicken manure, and I could put some horse manure. I could, lots of different things I could do to amend the soil. Even just putting a good mulch on it and leaving it covered, the worms will break that down. It'll turn to compost, all that sort of stuff. I could have turned some compost into the soil, last fall when I was planting these. But, I don't tend to do that. I just work with things. So I know that this is not the best soil. So probably next year I'll plant beans or peas or something like that. Something that doesn't mind a poor soil, and it might even increase the nitrogen count in the soil. So yeah, it's not worth really committing an excellent sort of top shelf crop to this bed. So next season, what I need to do is either amend this soil. I wouldn't plant garlic 2 years in a row in any bed anyway. It's not a good idea. But I know that the garlic are not of a sort of my preferred size. I'm 99% certain that the reason these garlic aren't big is because of the just poor soil here. It's a new garden. I'm using the existing soil here. When you use a no-till approach and you keep everything mulched, over time the soil does get better and better, but it doesn't always improve in year one, right? If you get really good results in year one, it's probably because you had good soil to start with. And using the no-till approach, the heavy mulch approach, tends to maintain the moisture levels in the soil, so you get really good results like that. But fixing poor soil, if you're not going to work something into it immediately, it takes a bit of time, maybe a season or 2 or even 3, to take a poor soil and improve it just by putting different kinds of mulch on top of it, but it will work. And of course, certain mulches are more nitrogen rich than others and all that sort of stuff, right? But yeah, for this one here, that's the result. But for you, why your garlic didn't turn out big, it could be any one of those things I mentioned, right? Could be the location, you don't get enough sun. Could be you had a lousy spring, not enough sun in the spring. Could be that you used a variety that doesn't get big. Could be that you used some sort of grocery store garlic that just wasn't harvested in a way that makes it good seed garlic. You could have even, I suppose, bought good certified seed garlic that got really too hot one day when it was in storage. That's possible, or maybe too cold or whatever, right? You could be using small cloves, so you're getting small garlic. But all the garlic I planted, what I do when I save my seed is I only use the seeds from the big garlic. So I'm 99% certain that the garlic cloves I put in this soil were the same size as the garlic cloves that I put in the bed that gave me this big one, because that's just how I do it. So the only thing left is the soil, because I got good sun, right? This garden got the same amount of moisture as the other garden. Everything was the same here, but the soil. And actually, if you've got poor soil, it won't hang on to moisture as well. So the garden over there that gave me the big one got the same amount of rain as the garden that gave me this little one. But really good soil hangs on to moisture better than poor soil. So that could, and also really good soil, it's easier for the plant to get the water out of the soil than poor soil. And I did a whole podcast on soil with a soil scientist if you want to learn more about that. It's really important to have good soil. If you're not having success as a gardener, it's probably your soil. But yeah, there's lots of different things you can do to amend soil to make it better. But if you keep it mulched and you're patient, it'll also improve, right? And I got lots of different beds here, so I don't really need to put a lot of energy into this garden. Next year I'll just plant beans here because it's such a, it doesn't mind a poor soil. And I'll keep it mulched. I'll mulch this heavily this fall. I'll keep it mulched all year next year. And there'll be just that much more good organic soil, more organic matter here. And the following year, maybe this will be a better garden. I'll plant something else. Maybe I'll plant some greens here, something, see how that goes. Anyway, starting to ramble here, so I think I'll wrap it up. I hope that answered your question. It's a question I get from a lot of viewers, so I thought I'd make a video answering the question so that I can just refer people to it when they ask, rather than writing an essay every single time. Right? Could be any one of those causes. Think about what you did and all the different conditions that were present when you tried to grow those garlic, and take a guess as to what the cause was, and make a plan for next year. That's all you can do, right? That's gardening. Hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.